All right, back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us. It's about 8:27. Clint Kelly's with us. He is our malpractice attorney, 8:27 in the morning, unless you're watching this on the tape delay that runs in the afternoon. This airs again this afternoon. We're taking your call, 737-7587. If you have a question about a malpractice case, the laws that are out there, I want to get into that with Clint a bit, if there's anything on the horizon to change some of it, because this does continue to get more and more hospital and doctor friendly, making it more difficult to sue every day.
It has been.
Every day, and I know that's a burr in your saddle.
It is. Well, anything takes rights away from people is a burden.
Yeah, and it is your occupation as well, of course. Sure. So let's go to Peggy. Good morning, Peggy.
Hi.
Hi. How can we help you?
Well, I have a quick question. My husband had total hip replacement in September by a local hospital. I won't name the name.
Okay.
And by a very well-renowned doctor that supposedly engineered this new, it's very minimally invasive. They do it from the front. And everything went good for a while. Then he developed what looked like openings. The doctor said that it was glued with super glue. It developed like 3 different openings. Well, these openings, now this was just in September, these openings got bigger and they turned greenish looking. Okay, so we go back to the doctor, and the doctor, after 6 weeks, we go back to the doctor looks at these things, and immediately he throws a napkin over them and calls his head nurse in, and they leave, and he comes back and he says, we're going to have to re-look at this. And he does x-rays. Excuse me, I'm nervous over this because I'm upset, but at the same time, I want to think everything's okay.
Sure.
But anyway, he looks at this and says, let's do some more x-rays. So he cleans this thing out with big, long swabs, and it's very, very deep what he's doing. And he tells me to do this myself at home with saline solution. For 2 weeks, I did this, and my husband is in excruciating pain while I'm doing this. And the whole time I'm doing this, it seems that this green stuff is still in there. When we go back after the 2 weeks, after doing this, I counted it. I did this 40 times to my husband. 40 times. And we go back to the doctor after we're supposed to go back for 2 weeks, and then he tells us that that was a staph infection, and he has to have a new surgery to go in and clean that out. So we go to another hospital I won't name, and they do a second surgery to clean that out. And we go home. By the way, these were outpatient surgeries. We go home, and it seems to be better, and we weren't charged for the second surgery. It's real funny. You know, my insurance was, I think, 70-30. We weren't charged for any of the second surgery, and we really met our deductible by getting into our 401k, something we really didn't want to do because we knew these bills were all going to hit, because you're going to get one from that puts you out.
How's he doing now? I mean,
wondering, I have a limit on how long I can sue if something goes wrong.
Yeah, listen.
He's having some pain now.
Okay.
And we went back one time, and it's cost us money.
Okay, hang on, and you did a nice job describing that, even if you were nervous. Very nice. Now listen to Clinton. He may have a question or two for you. Hang on.
Well, the point is, you got 1 year from the date that you discovered that something was wrong.
Well, September, so she's still okay now.
I think she's fine on the statute of limitations. Now, let me tell you something, Peggy. Staph infections are part of the risk of having surgery. It's just a fact of life today. Most of your hospitals are crawling with bugs. And so when you have surgery, that's just a risk of the procedure. The question is, was the staph managed properly when it was discovered? I can't really tell a whole lot by what you're telling me in terms of whether he's improving, getting worse, or staying the same. They haven't taken the hardware out, and that's a big positive, because usually that's what happens if the infection gets out of control. So it's hard to tell. I hate to see somebody who's burned up their deductible and then has to go into their savings to pay for further health care. I tell you why I bet she hadn't been billed. I bet because the infection came quickly enough after the surgery that if it's not Medicare, some of your policies are not paying for claims anymore because they're saying that the infection was preventable.
Ah, and so they have no choice. Okay, so is there anything that she should do? You want to follow?
Just follow and take good care of it.
So you don't think she has a case right now? Is there something she should monitor?
It's too early to tell, because I can't tell from what she's telling me whether he's going to have any permanent problems for this or if he's going to get over it. most of the time this works out. People get over it. It may take months, it may be a lot of pain and expense, but they'll usually get through it. It's only if they have to take that hardware out and put more hardware in where she's going to have
what an awful experience. Listen, Laura, just we're going to have the contact number for Clint Kelly up at the end of the program.
Peggy.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it was Peggy. I apologize. Yeah, it was Laura's earlier. Peggy, we'll have that number up. And as he says, right now there may not be clear-cut case of it, but if you think it's gotten worse, and if they go in to take out the hip and replace it, or who knows? I mean, is it worth her making a call?
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, it's just too early for me to tell right now.
Okay, so do that. You're absolutely right about staph infection. Tom Brady, okay? Remember years ago when he had his one serious injury, his knee was torn up, and he had to go have surgery done, and he ended up having a staph infection. You think he got the best care money could buy and was monitored so close, and he still had a staph infection that they had to clean out of his knee that forced him to delay his recovery.
Exactly. The question
is, it can happen to anyone.
Was it recognized timely, and was it dealt with appropriately? Those are the questions when it comes to infection.
Okay. All right. Again, sorry Peggy went through that. That's just awful. Let's go to Brian. Brian, good morning.
Good morning. Did the recent legislature, which I think has just ended, the Tennessee legislature session for this year, did they adjust any malpractice laws, or are they the same? And how do they do that? Do they get input from doctors or lawyers, or what exactly? How do they form those laws?
Yeah.
Okay, they are still in session, by the way, but lobbyists.
This year there are not going to be any laws that affect medical malpractice in Tennessee.
Is that good or bad? Because it could have been.
It's very good, because there were a couple of proposals that would have been devastating.
But weren't there some you wanted reversed or changed that way?
We'd like the statute of limitations extended from 1 year to 2, so people have a fair chance to have their day in court. Second part of Brian's question is, where do they get their information? There is a healthcare lobby. It consists of doctors and hospitals, and there's also a lawyer lobby. It consists of lawyers. And those lobbies try to influence the legislature into changing laws that benefit whoever they represent. Because we have extremely Republican supermajorities. Yeah. We've had that since 2012, even going back to 2010 when it first changed. Most of the laws have been in favor of the hospitals and doctors because those lobbies contribute heavily to Republicans. And I don't see that trend changing. Now, fortunately, there are some Republicans in the legislature who also recognize that patients have rights and should have their rights protected, and that may be one reason why we were able to dodge a bullet this year and not have the laws get any worse. But I keep telling people who watch this show, I think it's your duty for yourself and for your family to contact your legislator every year and say, look, I want laws that favor patients in medical negligence cases, not the doctors and not the hospitals, because they've had their benefits. The system is tilted towards them all the way around. Call your legislator and tell them. Legislators respond to phone calls, they respond to emails.
Sure, they're constituent. What is it? How is it they sell it, though? Because lawmakers are going to look at everything and through a filter of how will this affect my ability to get reelected. Okay, it's all about politics is at the base of all of it. So how do they justify taking away one of their constituents' abilities to sue if they are wronged by a doctor or a hospital, and not lose that vote? I mean, if I'm a constituent and my lawmaker is making it and I get injured and then I realize, wait a second, I can't sue because of why? Because of some stupid law you passed? Right. How do they justify it? They say, well, listen, by putting this law in place, it protects the hospitals and doctors, so your insurance premiums are lower and costs stay controlled. I don't know, what's their argument?
That's exactly the argument.
Okay.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because tell me whose premiums have gone down lately.
Right, it's a joke.
Tell me how many doctors are leaving Tennessee because of the system we have that's bad.
Yeah.
All these arguments that are being made are just a bunch of baloney. Yeah. What it is, it increases the bottom line for the insurance companies who insure the doctors and insure the hospitals. It's that simple.
Yeah, so if I'm a constituent, I'm not real concerned with the insurance companies, and so I'm wondering, why are you making it harder for me to sue? And I'm not saying there aren't occasionally frivolous lawsuits filed, or maybe in the long distance past before these laws
passed.
What
people don't understand, and they should understand, if the doctor and the hospital is not going to pick up the tab for the mistakes they make, who's going to pick up the tab?
Right.
It's going to be the patient and the taxpayer. No one seems to keep that in mind.
I just don't get
these people who can't get their health care needs covered by the doctor or the hospital when there's been a major medical mistake, they'll have to go to the government and get disability, they'll have to go to the government and get other health care, and then they'll have to absorb the screw up. If I throw a baseball through a glass window of my neighbor's house, and I say, sorry, I'm not going to pay for it because I don't think you should sue me, you're the one that's going to have to pay to fix your own window.
Yeah.
Or you're going to have to go to the government to help you fix the window. That's not right.
It makes no sense at all. It makes no sense how that works out. And the system, the way it's set up right now, it doesn't protect the consumer, does it?
No, it does not.
And every time you turn down a case that you can't take because of the laws, I know you included a letter to say, listen, if you have a problem with this, you need to contact your lawmakers.
I think this will change eventually. I think the pendulum is maybe starting to swing back a little bit as people see their rights being eroded, because that's one thing we have in this country and in this state is we have rights. And when you start taking rights away and you can't hold wrongdoers accountable, eventually there's going to be some type of pushback.
Yeah, it's the tort reform. You know, it goes back to higher profile case, personal injury, where there's a high profile one that people scratch their heads at and say, why does that happen? Let's make sure this can never happen again. And it's so rare. The McDonald's hot coffee case from years ago, where someone was given the coffee, it was so hot, and they spilled it on themselves, and then they sued, and there was some kind of win over that, which was ridiculous. You know, you didn't know all the circumstances, but that it was because the coffee was too hot. I mean, how does? And so people were outraged that someone won money over that.
Do you know how long ago that case was?
Yeah, it was
25
years.
Yes,
and I still comes to my mind, and I'm like, but that led to some reforms. We got to make it tougher for people to sue for crazy stuff like that. And it doesn't happen that often, but boy, they made hay with that case.
Well, to give you an example of how unfair a cap is, I don't think a lot of people know those kids that died in that Chattanooga bus crash. Yeah. $300,000 is the most that the government would have to pay each of these children for their deaths because there's a cap, $300,000 cap. A lot of people don't know that. Yeah. Caps they're just not fair because we don't have a one-size-fits-all type of system, and government shouldn't be deciding what the proper amount of damages are. Juries should be.
And you've even said juries too. They're not like, oh yeah, let's just pay them off. Juries are hard to convince to give a nice big settlement to a victim sometimes. You've said that, right?
Juries are very, very tight. So if you're able to convince a jury, then you know that you've had a good case and it was for real.
Yeah, it's not like juries are out there willy-nilly handing over millions of dollars to folks that maybe they don't think.
When was the last time you read about a giant verdict in the newspaper?
Nah, it's been ages. It's been ages. Even though you, every once in a while, get one. We'll take a break. When we come back, more of your phone calls, 737-7587 with attorney Clint Kelly right after this.